students, welcome to another video, and today we are going to study a very interesting poem from class 11 Hornbill book, and the name of the poem is A Photograph by Shirley Toulson. Now, Shirley Toulson wrote many books on social history of the countryside since 1974. She was a leading authority on ancient tracks and the author of The Drovers' Roads of Wales and The Drovers' Roads of South Wales. She was born on 20th May 1924 and she died on 15th May 2014, which was almost 94 years. Her most famous work was Shadows in an Orchard. It was basically a collection of some poems. Now here are some important word meanings from this poem. Paddling means walking in shallow waters. Cardboard here means basically a photograph. Snapshot is also a photograph which is clicked very quickly. Transient means mortal, that means thing which can die. Circumstance means situation. Re means mocking humor. Silence means quietness, and labored means worked hard. So please learn these meanings, and I'm sure if you understand the meanings, the poem will become very easy for you. Now this poem is divided into three paragraphs, and all these three stanzas basically talks about the mother's childhood, then the middle age, and the mother's death. So the first paragraph, which says, "The cardboard shows me how it was when the two girl cousins went paddling." So it means that the poet is looking at an old photograph and she recalls an old memory of her mother when she was enjoying a day at a beach, and there were two more cousins with her mother. Then she says, each one holding one of my mother's hand, and she, the big girl, some 12 years or so. So both the little girls were holding her mother's hand, and she assumes that her mother was probably around 12 years. Now all three stood still to smile through their hair. So all these three girls were standing together and they were getting a photograph clicked. They were smiling, and it was a windy day, as I could say that it says that they were smiling through their hair. That means the hair were falling on their faces as it was a windy day, and they were still smiling and getting the photo clicked. Now who was clicking the photo? At the uncle with the camera, a sweet face, my mother's, that was before I was born. So the mother's uncle was there and he was getting this photo clicked, and her mother looked very sweet in that photograph. And since this is a very old photograph for a mother, so the poet was not born then. Okay, and then she says, and the sea, which appears to have changed less, washed their terribly transient feet. So now sea doesn't changes. So sea is considered here as something which doesn't changes, but humans, they change with time. So the sea was washing the feet of her mortal feet of her mother. That means the waves which were coming and hitting the shores again and again looked like that the sea was washing feet of her mother and the cousins of her mother. And the poet tells that the feet were transient, that means they were mortal. That means all three will die one day, but the sea would remain as it is. Now the stanza 2 talks about her mother's middle age. So the poet says, some 20-30 years later, she would laugh at the snapshot. See Betty and Dolly, she would say, and look how they dressed us for the beach. The sea holiday was her past, mine is her laughter. Both with the labored ease of loss. So the poet here is telling us that around 20 to 30 years later, the poet mother, when she look at the same photograph again, she again tells the poet that look at Betty and Dolly. These were the two cousins which were standing next to her mother. And the mother also commented on the way that they were dressed for the beach, because it was very different than what than compared to the present. So the sea holiday was her mother's favorite, but whereas the poet's favorite was to see the smile of the mother, and now both are actually sad with the loss. So over here the mother is sad of the loss of her favorite pastime activity, which was spending time at the beach, because she was hardly getting any time. And when the poet again sees the same photograph, now she is sad and disappointed with the loss of her mother now, as she is no more. Now in the last stanza, the poet says, now she's been dead nearly as many years as that girl lived, and of this circumstance there is nothing to say at all. It's silence, silences. Now the third stanza talks about the death of her mother, and the poet says that her mother is dead nearly many years has been passed as that girl lived. So the girl in the photograph was around 12 years. So it's almost 12 years that her mother is dead, and now she cannot say anything or speak further on this situation because the poet is very sad and depressed. And the last line, it's silence, silences. This is a very important line. It basically means now the silence which the poet is feeling in the photograph actually silences the poet. So the poet is unable to comment further as she is lost in her old memories and she is very sad and depressed. So I hope you have understood this wonderful poem, and I would like to thank you again for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel Learn with Dheeraj for more educational, easy and informational videos. So till then, take care and stay safe.